Every runner has a story. What about you? What's your story? Running isn't easy. We've all overcome struggles to get to where we are. Maybe you're struggling now. What is it that stands in your way of reaching your full potential as a runner? And are you willing to do what it takes to get there? If you're not sure, listen to this story about how this runner overcame an obstacle that seemed absolutely impossible. And remember, if they can do it, you can do it too. What are your running goals? Do you need help recovering from a running injury? Do you need help developing a training plan? Maybe you've never ran before and you just want to get started. Let us help you reach that big goal of yours. Here at Body Smart, we help runners maximize their performance and stay on the road. To learn more, ask questions, or to set up your first free appointment, go to bodysmartutah.com or call us at 801-479-4471.
Welcome to Running Unbroken. It's a wonderful Friday. Today we have Cameron and Shannon Garber here with us. They're going to tell us their amazing life story.
I don't know if we're going quite to life story.
Okay, maybe not that amazing. But anyway, they're going to get a rundown of, funny puns. We're all about that here. A rundown of how they got into running, what keeps them running, what kind of the inspiration and idea behind Body Smart and the direction that we're taking with it and focusing on runners. Yeah?
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we were talking before, first of all, I'll direct Cameron. We were talking before we started recording about how growing up you hated running. Tell us about that and how that switched and how running came to take a different place in your mind and in your heart.
Yeah. So running was, it is funny. So I played a lot of team sports. We both played a lot more team sports. Shannon played tennis as well. But I was always taught through team sports that running was a punishment. Not something you do to get better or to beat your opponent or to, be more fit or anything like that. It was like, you screwed up, go run laps. And so I was actually a pretty good runner. I was fairly fast and could run a decent distance when I had to. So like when we, for baseball tryouts or for, whatever, had to run, like go run for a half hour and let's see how many laps you can get in or whatever. Like I destroyed everybody in those types of things. I was pretty good at it, but I never liked it. I thought it was miserable. And I always felt like running, you had to run till you vomited for it to count as running.
Did you ever run till you vomited?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, on multiple occasions. So for sports or for like in body conditioning class in school or whatever, like when it came time to run, it was like full speed or nothing, right? Which is not what running has to be. But a lot of people have that attitude. It's like, well, I'll run for sport, but I'm not going to run outside of sport. And it's like, why not run so that you can be good at your sport? And I think that was a bit of a realization for me. And part of what got me into it was, playing basketball with guys my same age or older and watching them like not be able to move or run or being gassed after like 3 minutes of a 6-minute quarter. You're like, really, guys? That's it? You're tapping out, and thinking, well, if I run, then I can at least still have some energy to do that kind of stuff. So that was part of it.
Well, I would say too, like our growing up experiences were a lot different. We both played sports, but fitness in my family was like a huge thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we would go on hikes. If you weren't throwing up in a workout, you weren't trying hard enough. That's how the Bullards think that like working out should be. Like if you aren't throwing up, it's not a good workout. So even on hikes that we'd go, like my dad would say, let's go on a nice family
Sunday hike. Yeah.
And it would end up being 12 miles with no water, and it's like, and if you're not keeping up with my dad, like you're left in the dust.
Right.
So I would say like, I grew up with parents that were very fitness oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so I viewed it differently. Like it wasn't like I loved running, but I felt the importance of it.
Mm.
Right. So I knew it was going to be a lifelong thing that I had to do, whether I enjoyed it or not. Like that's what you do is you stay in shape. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's probably the main difference between you and I is that you didn't have that same example in your home.
Yeah. My dad marathoned until we moved he ran marathons and ran most mornings until we moved to Bountiful. And then the hills, I think.
But it wasn't a lifestyle that your family led.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And ours was very much a life. I'm not saying your parents were. I'm just saying two different.
Yeah, just different. Yeah.
I love you,
different
Greg
paradigms.
No, but it was just
Disclaimer.
It's just a different life.
Yeah.
It was a different mentality. So I would say that's why you only viewed it as punishment.
Right.
Mine wasn't. It was still punishment because it was...
It's like a necessary evil.
Yes, but it was a necessary evil for sure.
Right. Mine was a punishment for poor performance, not a punishment for bad eating. Right? Okay.
Yes, ours was.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be able to eat what I want.
I want to eat whatever I want, so...
I better run.
I better be in shape. I better burn enough calories to do that, which was the mindset growing up. Maybe not a healthy one, but that was the mindset.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So it's interesting kind of that hate relationship I had with running at first. Like I didn't see the value in it. It's like, well, I'll run in my sports, but then I saw people getting injured and having problems. And I thought, dang, well, that's probably not the right way to do it. And then Shannon was pretty big into running. Like
at that point,
yeah. When I somewhere around late 20s, early 30s, when I started to like it, I guess.
So I first started running.
Right. Well, your story goes way further back. For me, it's like probably 27 to 29. She would invite me to go on some runs.
Yeah.
And she would always be like, I've trained for years and you like just come with me and run 8 miles and you keep up with me fine.
So annoying.
Yeah.
You're like, this is not fair. Right.
And the difference is like I paid for it for the next couple of days and whatever, but I could do it. But I saw like, oh, I'm really not bad at it. And actually the way she runs, I wasn't dying the whole time. Maybe this isn't so bad. I was dying more than I probably should have been, right? But it wasn't so bad. I wasn't like, she's not running as hard as she can for that 8 miles. She was just enjoying the trail or enjoying the run and whatever. And so that's when my mindset started to shift with it. And then I think when I graduated PT school and started looking at the metabolic testing and stuff like that, I became interested in it in like, well, how do I help Shannon run better?
Yeah.
But Shannon's running story started way earlier.
Was that, pause before we go there, was that the same period that you transitioned off of the cheese block diet? Does that have something to do with it?
Probably.
I don't think he's ever transitioned off the cheese block diet, Mark.
If you saw me last night, you would think, no, he's still on the cheese block diet.
Very much alive.
It's keto, right? And now it's popular. My cheese block diet is popular now.
You were cool before it was cool.
Right.
I love
That's what I tell Shannon all the time.
All of that. Okay, yeah. So interesting. So Shannon, let's hear your story. Obviously, we got kind of a little bit of a picture of it, what it was like in the family growing up and the drive to run. But how did you come to actually start to enjoy running?
So I started running when Cameron left on his mission because I needed something to fill my time. That's the truth.
Take your mind off it.
So
I don't know.
She just had her hands full with you, Cameron.
We spent a lot of time together, right? And so here I am. Now my tennis is over because at that point I decided after high school not to play college tennis. I decided to take a break. So I had been training and athletics my whole life. So high school ends.
Yeah, so there's just this like void.
And there's this void of something, right? And then he leaves and now there's a bigger void. And I went on a run with one of my friends who had already done a marathon. And she said, hey, come run with me. And I ran 3 miles. I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, to wrap that up. And she's like, I'm going to keep going, but you can be done, like, anyways. And I just remember being like, oh, she's like going on I didn't know runs longer than 3 miles. People really did that.
But that was just in the movies.
So I'm going to interject here for a second. The Bullards aren't just like exercise till you puke. They are like fist fights during family volleyball, right? Like uber competitive.
Yeah.
Like so crazy competitive. Yeah, maybe so. But no, I love it. I absolutely love it. Being a part of that is really fun. But like, yeah, arguments, fights, whatever during family sports is not unusual. I think it's mellowed a little bit now that we're all older, but it is, I mean, it's an intense family. Like you play to win, even in family volleyball or family tennis or whatever. Like
it's not fun unless you're trying to win.
Yeah, like the only reason to play is to win, and so like everybody's out there to win, which is really fun.
And not just everybody gets invited either. Like we're not an all-inclusive.
No, this is VIP.
You have to have a certain threshold of like.
Did you play a college sport? And have you played volleyball within the last 3 years? Oh, no. Maybe next time.
We'll call you.
It's not quite that. Because I didn't ever play a college sport.
Don't
but
call
I
us.
somehow I squeezed my way in. Yeah. But so there's the kind of caveat to, she saw her run more than the 3 miles, and I'm sure the competitiveness of Shannon was
that's
like,
that's
what?
For sure.
Well, I can do that.
We're going here, are we?
If Jenny can do it, I can do it.
Then I started training with her. So I said to myself, okay, if Jenny's that's actually who I run with when I train for marathons, is still that same friend. Yeah. But I said, if Jenny's running 6 miles an average run, then that's what I got to get up to so that I can run with Jenny. So that's what I did. And then we started training for a marathon, and I ran my first marathon when I was 19. I was ill prepared because I had nannied in New York and didn't run as much as I could have, but I was a 19-year-old, so I could just kind of suffer through it. Mm. And I did. I suffered through it, and it was an experience that was awesome, that like gets you motivated and you see other people.
And you Boston qualified, right?
And I did. It wouldn't be a Boston qualifying time now, right. But I did Boston qualify, and I thought, man, if I can do that without a lot of training, then anyway, so that's how my running. And then I just then I started playing tennis at the U, and then I was in the best shape of my life up until that point because we were training so hard. And I went from that to like the worst shape of my life in a matter of a year because I got pregnant.
About 9 months.
I got pregnant, and then I got pregnant right again. And so I went from like college athlete to I haven't moved off the couch for 2 years. At that point I hadn't, like, the lifestyle of being fit hadn't really been, because I had always had sports to drive that. So I hadn't incorporated it yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, that it wasn't like we had gotten married, had 2 kids really quick, and so we hadn't really established our own habits and patterns and things like that, other than you being pregnant.
When I got pregnant, I just didn't have those habits.
Yeah.
And I ran for the marathon, but then like when it was over, it was like, and we're done, right? Like it wasn't like a habit yet.
No, I love that you brought that up. I like that, having developed a lifestyle of fitness, because I think that's what happens with a lot of us, right? We have so much structure growing up. A lot of us in high school, a lot of us in college, and it's just this routine. Oh, I do this, like this is just, and then when we get outside of that structure, when we get outside of that routine, and our lifestyle and fitness aren't habits of choice, they're habits of structure, habits of convenience.
Right.
And I think being able to take the time to choose fitness as a lifestyle is a really important crossroads that we come to.
Right. Oh, I see that all the time with people that do dance or gymnastics or football or, so many other high school activities, or, as a child, you do all these sports and activities, but they're very structured, and you go to practice, and then you graduate high school, and it's like, or even in high school, like you didn't make the team or whatever. And now what? What do I do for fitness now? If you didn't make the fit cheer squad or whatever, or you graduate and it's over, you're not going to college, which most of us don't. It's like, okay, now what? And that kind of letdown of, oh, I have to do this on my own now. Like I have to generate the effort and consistency instead of just signing up for practice and games,
Yeah. Yeah. And lucky enough, I had that,
Modeled.
the role model of my parents who were so I knew that eventually I knew that was going to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
I just hadn't transitioned there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard when you're really young and had 2 babies really quick. And so you're uncomfortable.
So
and
after my second baby, I went out to run, and I couldn't even make it a mile.
You're like, no!
Came home and cried.
I did. It was the most miserable mile of my whole
remember.
entire life, and I cried and cried, and it was a low point.
Do you feel like that was kind of the catalyst for you, or what was the catalyst to build that into your lifestyle? Because obviously now you guys are incredibly active, right? All your boys play like 10,000 sports, and like you guys are always moving. You're always doing something.
Yeah, I think for me that was the catalyst for sure. That low point of like, I never want to feel like this again. Right? Everybody's gotten in and out of shape, and getting into shape is the worst part of being in shape, right? Like that's the worst, is that I'm going to throw up because I'm so out of shape feeling. And that was like, I never want to feel that way again. That's terrible. And so I think that was the beginning of
creating that habit.
It's
interesting though, because of our families, we definitely that helps us lead an active lifestyle too. We always joke about the Bullard vacations. Like a Bullard vacation is you get up in the morning, you lift weights or do some kind of workout, and then let's all go on a run together, and then let's go play softball at the park, and then let's go play volleyball on the beach, and then we'll play tennis in the evening, and then we'll have a barbecue, and then whoever else wants to go do whatever, you don't gain weight on a Bullard vacation. You usually lose weight on a Bullard vacation, which is fun. I love that kind of thing.
Go to bed totally exhausted.
Just you collapse into bed every night. Yeah. And it's fun. I love that kind of vacation. And so we had that, we were still, even though we were having babies and all that stuff during that phase, we were still being invited.
Whoa. I think we should pause.
That's true. Pump the brakes. Shannon was having babies. But we were still being invited to go play volleyball. We were still being invited to do those things. And so that helped us not get so out of shape.
I would say that's what really kept you
motivated.
The most.
But we were still hiking with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going on hikes with one in the front carrier and one in the backpack and
that's awesome.
Trucking around, So we still were, I would say, probably more active or as active as most people are. And then as our kids have gotten older, we've just been able to really enjoy that. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then those habits and patterns, because it's well, man, going on a hike is not very fun if I'm huffing and puffing the whole time. Let's get in shape so that I can do the things that I love to do. And that kind of philosophy, I think, started, that's a philosophy that we have here in the business a lot, is our fitness should support the things that we love to do. And I think that really started in our home of well, I want to be able to, at first it was, I want to be that young dad, because I am by default, because we had kids really fast. I want to be that young dad that can beat my kids up the mountain, that can compete playing basketball in the backyard, or, I want to be able to do that. And now it's shifting more towards I want to be that grandparent that can still beat their grandkids up the mountain or whatever. Not that old, but it's shifting that direction.
We're closer there than
I know. Well, so if our son had kids, our oldest had kids as fast as we had kids, we're only 5 years away from having a grandkid, which is crazy. That's crazy. I'm not even 40 yet, so that's nuts to think about. So, yeah, that is wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that definitely had us a foundation of wanting to be fit and doing active things. But then kind of the fitness lifestyle was built over time.
Yeah, yeah. So, I know one of the things that a lot of people deal with as they're getting into shape or getting back in shape is that image of like, this is where I was in high school, or this is where I was in college, or this is where I was in that, whatever point. And it becomes kind of demotivating, right? Like, oh, I was here, and just kind of that shame comes in, and why am I not here, and why did I let myself go? And
the used to coulds.
The used to coulds, right?
I used to could.
So do you guys feel like you experience any of that yourselves? And what would you say to people that are kind of dealing with that thought and that reality?
I felt it today.
Right.
As I did my metabolic test, and where I was when I ran Boston and where I am now is totally dropped off. I think that's totally normal to feel that way, right? Like the letdown of like, oh man, I used to be. I think the difference is now is like Cameron said, it's that I think the motivation is different. Like when you're young, you have a motivation of like, I want to do the best that I can do. I want to see if I can qualify for Boston. I want to be on the best tennis team. I want to push myself to, you know what I mean? Like it's different. Mm-hmm. There's an end goal of like an achievement. Mm. Yeah. And I feel like now there's no end goal of achievement as far as like, those things are great. It's just different now. I want to be able to do what I want to do for as long as I can do it. Yeah. And that's the end goal for me now.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's like if my sister, and like I said, very active lifestyle. So if my sister says to me, hey, let's go hike Kings Peak next month. And I can say, yeah, let's do it. And I'm ready to go. That's what I want. I don't want to say, oh, I don't want my body to dictate what I can and can't do. Mm. I want to decide in my mind, like maybe I don't want to go hike Kings Peak because it's going to be freezing. And that's a whole different story, right? It's like, oh man, I don't want to be miserable for that long. But I never want my body to dictate what I say yes to and what I don't say yes to. Mm. And I would say that's my biggest motivation. So yes, like you're going to have times in your life when fitness is like down lower than it was or up higher than it normally is or whatever. And I think that's totally normal. But to have a broader goal of this is always going to be in my life because I always want this end game, I think that's more important.
Mm. Yeah, I think you wake up after a couple of accomplishments, and you go, oh, it's still a Monday morning. Like I just ran Boston or whatever, but now it's still Monday and I still have kids to do and I still got to get up and run. And so like the accomplishments are still cool and still fun and it's still fun to work towards something. But I think you start realizing more and more and more like, oh, just because I accomplished that goal doesn't mean I'm fit. It means I was fit. But if I don't get up and run again and again and again, like I'm not going to maintain that. And so you come to that realization that, oh, this is just a lifestyle and it preserves my ability to be the type of me that I want to be. Mm. Right. And it's very easy to let that go and see kind of things slip away in terms of what you can and can't do, how you feel. And so that to me is as big a part of it as anything is just being able to feel and do, like Shannon said, the things I want to do. I want to be the type of me that I can be. And I want to be the type of parent and grandparent. I want to be, all of those things to the people and things that are important to me. I want to be there for those things, right? And so that on the diet side of things, on the exercise side of things has been a game changer for me. I'm not doing it for me as much as I am doing it so that I can do the things I want to do for the people that I love. Yeah. I think that's more of a motivator for me than weight on the scale or any other thing. Like mm-hmm. I probably wouldn't get out of bed for me. You know what I mean? But I will get out of bed to, lately I've been getting out of bed to help my son be able to jump higher. So we've been doing jump trainings in the morning. I'll get out of bed for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so seeing my fitness that way of like, what will I get out of bed for? I'll get out of bed for my future grandkids or for my kids now, so that I can model that healthy behavior, so that I can do those things. That's what gets me out of bed. It's not for me necessarily anymore. I guess I've lost ambition for my own goals in that way. And it ebbs and flows. There are times where I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to train for another whatever, marathon, or I'd love to train for a triathlon at some point in time. And so when I make that decision, like, yeah, I think that will motivate me to get up and get going and stuff. But really, I think part of why I want to do a triathlon is so that I can show my kids that like I can do it and that it's hard but worth it and things like that. So I don't know. It is funny how the motivations change.
Yeah, which I think is a good thing to recognize and to appreciate. I know we've had conversations before about, in some people's mind, right, running is a very specific thing. It is the competition, right? Like, I'm not a runner unless I do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. But that it doesn't just have to be that, right? There can be a ton of different motivations, reasons that you get out to running, and it can be adapted and used for a variety of things that you want to do in your life. It doesn't just have to be that one thing. I like what you both said, right? There's seasons in our lives that it was more about the achievement and the ambition and being the best. And then as just life's moved on, you've had different experiences and you have different goals. Like, the purpose of running has changed, but it's still been a fuel to keep you living the type of lifestyle that you want to live.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how, I don't know. Yeah, that priority shifts and how it is more just about sustaining that healthy lifestyle.
I will say though, so my family had that like modeling behavior, right, of the active lifestyle. But Cameron, because of the metabolic testing, has really shifted so I think I brought him into the world of like fitness, right?
Yeah,
lifestyle.
Like lifestyle consistency.
Yeah. But sure. He brought me into, because after I had my fourth and I was out of shape again because I had 2 babies again right in a row. And I knew that was my last. I knew that that's maybe my last. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna get in shape.
Yeah.
And I went to my sister, who is insane.
Awesome.
She's so awesome, but has like a next level motivation that like nobody else has. It's just like, I'm gonna go run 20 miles because I want to, not because I.
Blizzard. Yeah. I'm gonna run home we're playing at a volleyball tournament. I'm gonna run home. You realize it's like 24 miles home, right? And it's snowing. Yeah. I'll just call somebody if I need to be picked up.
Yeah. So she's insane. So, which I love and I admire so much.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to start calling Melissa so that I can get back into shape. And this is at the time where Cameron had really started getting into.
Yeah, I had just done.
You were done with school.
I was done with PT school, and I think
you had just bought the metabolic cart, your first one.
2013 is when I bought it. So not quite yet.
Not yet.
So I had.
But I don't know.
But no, I had done this rotation with Julie. I'd lost 20 pounds.
That's right.
And so I was like, well, there's something to this metabolism thing.
So I went with Melissa. We went and did hills the first time. And I puked. Like, it was like miserable, whatever, but like I was motivated, right? Like, I'm going to get in shape. It's fine. So after 2 weeks of working out like this with her, getting up at 5 a.m. to go work out and puke my guts out, and I looked at the scale and it was like the same. And I was like, are you kidding me? I am killing myself here. Like, this is miserable. I'm so tired. I still have babies that aren't sleeping, and anyways, it was just miserable. And Cameron said, okay, are you ready to try my way now? And it was like, I guess.
Which, caveat, very touchy subject for husband and wife to talk about. And so I definitely had to be careful about how I approached it and do it from a very like clinician client standpoint and not husband-wife standpoint.
He could have said every day, like, well, because you're doing it wrong. He never said that.
No.
He just said, are you ready to try my way now? And it was like, okay, I guess so. And I I don't like taking any criticism from you.
Advice, criticism, anything.
So I know that about myself. But anyway, so I got tested and then started working out. So I stopped working out with Melissa because it just wasn't conducive to that. So I started doing it that way. I started going to the gym at like 5 a.m. and on the treadmill walking most of the time and then running for short periods. And all of a sudden, weight starts coming off. And it was like, oh. And I felt better, right? Like I didn't feel beat up. I didn't feel like, I don't know. I didn't feel starving during the day. I think that was part of it. Is like I would go do these crazy workouts in the morning. And then it was like, give me all the food. Whatever food is in front of me, that's what I want to eat. All of it, all the time. And it was like, oh, when I work out Cameron's way, I'm not starving all the time. I can make better choices. And I feel energized and better.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting to see how that came about.
When did that click for you? Because I know one thing that we hear all the time from people is it's so slow, right? So you mentioned like I was walking and then doing little short bouts of running versus people that are used to kind of giving that like intense effort, like, oh, I ran so hard that I am hungry for everything. And so that's a really challenging switch for people to make. How was that for you? And at what point did that finally click so that you're like, yeah, this really makes sense?
I don't know if it ever totally clicks. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's because it's because of the lifestyle growing up or what that is, but like
it still always feels slow.
Well, and it's a constant battle with yourself of like there is a high you get when you push yourself to the limits.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you feel that high, it's like, oh man, I want to do this
more. Yeah. More.
I want this high tomorrow. It's like a drug, right? Like I want this again and again and again.
Yeah.
And I think it's a constant battle of like, no, like I'm going to keep myself in check so that when I have those highs, they really matter, right? It's like, this is for peak performance for whatever. So I think it definitely has clicked, like it's more ingrained in me now, but even Cameron you're not great at it.
Terrible at it. So at running slow, yeah, I am constantly like, slow it down. Because my native, like, comfortable pace is way faster than where I'm currently at. Now, the more dedicated you are, the more consistent you are, the faster your slow gets. But then the faster your native pace gets, too. Mm-hmm. And so, like, even when I'm in really good shape, I still feel like, oh, my gosh, I'm running so slow to keep my heart rate down.
And it's just, it's about trusting the process, too. And that really just took an achievement-based whatever, where I was running with my friend Jen, and she's an awesome runner.
She's done so many marathons.
She's done way more than I've done. But like running with her and seeing her struggle, and I was like, I'm totally fine. I could do this all day, and being like, that made it click, right? But trusting it enough, because it doesn't happen overnight. So trusting that enough of like, I'm going to dedicate my life to this way, or this training to this way of thinking, and I'm just going to see how it goes, and I'm not going to deviate because I really, really want to test it.
Yeah.
And so
well done.
That's what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it gets tricky. Like Jen doesn't run like that, which is totally fine, but I love running with her. And so then it's like a balance of like, well, what's more important? Running with my friend, which is huge to me,
and it keeps you motivated
or
to have
being
that appointment.
At the top performance peak all the time. And so there's always things like that you have to weigh in your mind.
So knock on wood.
Is that real? I don't know.
Fake wood. Shannon really has also been able to train, run, I don't know how many half marathons and at least 9 marathons. I think we've lost a few medals. I don't know. But with really being pretty injury-free as well. And that, I think, is also, by training according to your heart rate, has been a game changer in being able to run in a way that allows your body to make the adaptations it needs to make for the amount of training you're doing. And she's gotten up to, 50 miles a week, even high 50s miles a week. So running fairly good volumes and been able to avoid injury. But because she trained in a way that it was more about what do I have in the gas tank today, instead of, my training plan says I need to run 5 miles today at this pace. Instead, it's like, this is what I got in the tank today. That's how much I'm going to do. And it just allows you to continue to train more frequently with less beat up on her body. I mean, I remember one of her marathons when she was Boston training and she was running 2-a-days and everything. And she stayed so healthy. And little niggles like everybody gets. And she loves the A-stim, the scraping tool. She loves it, right?
So much.
But I think that's been a game changer too, to see, like, not only can I train the volume that I want to and enjoy the runs. To me, that's the biggest thing for me with running slow is like, I get done and I had a good time. Even though I feel like, oh my gosh, it's so slow. I still really enjoyed the run because I wasn't dying. And I'm able to do it again tomorrow and the next day.
Well, and even just take on your day.
Yeah,
right.
And that was another thing.
Because like you run, when you run 15 miles on a Saturday and you're giving it full effort during those 15 miles, I'm done. Like, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm tapped out. Like, I did my 15 miles. You got to get all the kids. You got to clean the house. Like, I got to sit on this couch and hang out.
Right. Well, those higher intensity bouts. I remember in high school, I'd have like something before school one year I had this lifting and whatever class. It was 5th period, I think, or like one of the first periods of the day. And so I'd often get to class early and put in a really hard lift. And then I felt like crap the whole rest of the day. And it would take me most of the rest of the day to not feel so beat up. Because I was lifting so hard because that's what you do, right? Mm-hmm. And that difference between like slow, steady, just do what my body can do and just build for the long term and not for just today. I always tell patients and tell people, like, you don't get fit in a day anyway. So no one workout is that important. Pushing so hard that I'm puking today is not in the long term going to make that much of a difference than just being consistent.
But you get unfit in a day.
Yeah, exactly. You can get unfit in a day. No, for real. But no one workout is that important. And so if that workout kicks you out of doing your workout tomorrow or for the next couple of days or for the next 6 weeks, right, then that workout really was kind of a waste. So it's better off to just kind of listen to your body, do what you can do, and take it easy more often so that I can be more consistent and feel less beat up. Because quite frankly, even if you burn 1,000 calories in an hour, if you just increase your caloric burn for 100 calories for the other 10 hours you're awake, by just moving a little bit more, being a little bit more active, you burn just as many calories. And 1,000 calories, most people can't burn 1,000 calories in an hour. That's like redlining for an entire hour.
Yeah.
And so most people's workout burns like 400 to 600, 700 calories. Like, just be a little more active in your day and you'll burn more calories than your workout. And so if your workout helps tune up the fat burning machine, and then you're just generally more active in your lifestyle, that's going to lead towards a healthier body and a healthier lifestyle and things like that. So,
Yeah. No, I love it. I want to highlight some of the important concepts that I think you guys drew out in there. The first, as you're just talking about, is consistency, right? Like, and we say all the time, right? Consistency is more important than intensity because of that reason, right? That's what builds change over time. But also another thing that you highlighted, right, is that, like, with training in the right way, training in a healthy lifestyle, being more active, it's led you to be able to accomplish some really big goals, right? Shannon's wearing a Boston jacket right now.
I know, the ultimate flex.
Not on purpose.
The ultimate flex. But I think it just goes to show the resiliency and the adaptability of the human body. I think people think it's normal just to go from injury to injury to injury. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Right. That's just part of running. Right?
Yeah. and that it doesn't have to be, right? That across a lifetime that we're adaptable, that we can live, like you said, a long, long life and never have, I love how you said it, never have our body decide what we can or can't do. We want that to be a choice. Yeah. And that is the last point that I want to highlight is being intentional about fitness. Because you brought up, Shannon, that, there's days that the choice is I want to run with my friend, and it's not the same way that I train, but that's a conscious choice that I'm making so that I can, enjoy the benefit of my whole social circle, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's ebbs and flows in training, but I think the big part is being conscious about what you're doing. It's not just an afterthought or I'm just doing this because there's the people I'm around, and as soon as I'm away from those people, it's not a lifestyle anymore. Right. Being very deliberate and conscious about living a certain type of lifestyle that fuels certain goals, I think is a really important takeaway. And one that's applicable to more than just running, right? Like being conscious about every choice that you're making in your life and not just letting life lead you along, but deciding the direction you want to do and what you will or won't do, right? It's like you mentioned with the mountain, right? Maybe it's freezing and I don't want to do it, but I want to be able to do these things. Mm-hmm. Always have that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite frankly, like you mentioned, our kids are into a bunch of sports and we're into a bunch of sports. Like we like to play volleyball, tennis. I like to play basketball. We like to hike and camp and fish and row and,
we like to do those things. We don't get to do them as often.
We don't get to. Our kids are on like 10 teams, so we don't get to do much.
Watch it a lot. We get to watch. We actually do it right now.
Vicarious experience.
Let's be honest about that.
It makes it hard to just. I don't know that either of us really, even though we run pretty often, don't consider ourselves necessarily just runners.
Yeah.
Right. Like I like to run and things, but I like to be able to do all the things, not just run.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that lifestyle really is a choice, but it's also like something we've built over time. It just didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It wasn't one choice. It's a series of choices. And that consistency is the hardest part too. Like I'm not always in good shape,
Yeah. And it's not based on motivation, right? Like this is something that we try to teach our kids right now.
Yeah.
Because they, motivation in life is, I said to one of my kids who was like, oh, it's just, I'm not motivated. And I was like, if I got up if I worked out every time I was motivated, I'm like, I'm trying to think the last time I would have worked out would be like, really?
Yeah.
Really, I don't get up and be like, man, let's do this every day.
Right.
It's
not
like
excited
every
for the
day.
workout.
It's like, man, I really don't want to work out.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
We talk about all the time how you'll never regret a workout, but you will regret not doing it.
Almost always regret not doing a workout.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's my motivation, right? It's like, okay, if I know how I'm going to feel if I don't do this, so I'm just going to make myself do it. And then in the course of the working out,
you wind up,
you love it.
Well,
and then
how you'll feel if you do work out too.
And that comes with experience. But man, I tell my kids all the time, like if I did anything based on motivation, I would never get anything done.
Yeah.
Who's motivated to do this? Why would I be motivated to do your laundry?
Yes. No, I mean, I think that's an important point.
Taking that out of it, right?
Yeah.
There are things that you can do to keep you motivated. Mm-hmm. I think that's different, but to do something based on motivation is not.
Yeah.
Not a long-term solution.
Right. No, it's more about habits and patterns and things like that than it is motivation.
Right.
Just establishing that's what I do. I get up and I work out.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it comes back to that choice, right? And making that decision, who do I want to be again and again and again, right?
Yeah.
Voting for the type of person that you want to be now and long-term.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, that brings some really cool results. So you've talked, about how active your kids are and everything. You talked about how, it was kind of in your families growing up, how fitness was and the examples you had. What's it like for you guys now seeing your kids love to be so active?
It's fun. It's the best. They don't necessarily love running or hiking but
I didn't either at that age.
Yeah, I don't.
Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't concern me.
That's how you know you're an adult. You're like, let's go on a hike. Oh, right. I'm
That's true.
I got some new socks, so I'm really excited about those and the hike.
So it is true. I love testing out new gear.
Yeah, my kids don't. Yeah, it's not like, hey, boys, who wants to go running with me today? And they're all like, Mom.
Yeah.
Right? But I hope that it's the same type of experience that I had where it was like, they just know in the back of their minds that that's going to be part of their lifestyle. Whether right now it's so structured.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're on
practice to game. I mean, we were just talking about our one boy had 4 games last Saturday. Another one has 3 this Saturday. And that's just kind of the way it goes.
So they're they're in the fun stage. And it's so fun though. I mean, whether they like it or not, like when your kids can beat you up the mountain, it's like a sad day, but also a really awesome day. Right?
I'm feeling all the things.
It's like, this is so cool that we can do this and enjoy this together. And I want to do that for as long as I can do that for. My dad is now 66.
Just turned 66.
Yeah. And every year for his birthday, we take him on a birthday hike. And the grandkids know that a hike with Grandpa Lonnie is not easy, and they gear up for it. Like, it's like, oh man, Grandpa's coming, Oh,
we're going to do a hike with Grandpa. I'd better bring my camelback.
or no shorts on a Grandpa hike because he bushwhacks. He doesn't follow a trail, or this is going to be long, right? Like, there's lots of things that my dad now can do for his kids, which they actually enjoy going on a hike with Grandpa way more than they enjoy going on a hike with Mom and Dad. Yeah. So to see that still happening in my family and wanting that, like, for me and my grandkids, I think that's...
Yeah. And as much as the kids complain when we're like, hey, guys, we're going to go on a hike today, they still like, when we talk about what are some of our favorite trips, Escalante, where that's all we did every day was just pick a different hike and go hike. That was like one of their favorite trips.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we asked them, so for every Christmas, that's what we give our kids is a experience. So we usually do like a family trip. And when we asked them, like, of all the trips, which ones would you do again? Skiing at Targhee and Escalante were like top, and the beach, California, Newport Beach. But at Newport, that's all we did all day was like, hey, soccer on the beach, volleyball on the beach. Let's go play basketball at the park bike ride. Yeah. Oh, they talked about that bike ride that was so windy and paddling back like 7 miles. So I think we went like 15 miles on beach cruisers. And our kids almost never bike. And so it was just funny. But they talk about that wind in our face, biking back the 7 miles. And they loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
how cool. It. Well, what would be like some last, I guess 2 questions. One, if you can kind of go back to like 18 or 19-year-old Shannon and Cameron, what advice would you give them? All right. And then
I don't know if some of that's appropriate.
In terms of obviously, like, you guys are living a very fit and healthy lifestyle and trying to pass that on to kids, but are there things that you would have liked them to know now about fitness, about running, about health that you would go back and tell them? And then I guess what advice would you give people that are wanting to build a fit and healthy lifestyle, or wanting to get into running more, but that are kind of dealing with some barriers to getting there?
For me, I would have told myself, try running slow and see what you think. Right? Try not running as fast as you can and see what you think. And I hopefully would have been like, oh, maybe this isn't so miserable. Right? I don't know.
Mine would be, and I think all women do this, of like, it's about the way you look instead of the way you feel. Right? And I think going back and being like, it's not about an end weight goal or an end achievement goal or an end whatever. It's just about like feeling good enough, fueling your body, whether that's exercise or the things that you eat. It's fueling your body to experience life in the way that you want to experience it. And so, man, I wish I could go back and be like, those 5 pounds don't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's, as long as you are able to keep up and do what you want to do, which to be honest, if I'm doing that, I'm never going to be obese.
Yeah.
Right? I'm never going to be way heavier than I want to be because I'm fueling my body the way that it needs to be, I guess.
Yeah, 100% agreed. I think that's, if you're being consistent with it, and if you're keeping yourself in a place where you can do all those things. So we tell that to our patients all the time here at Body Smart, right? That weight loss and fitness is just the natural result of leading a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is that you are going to be more in shape at points in your life and not as in shape in points of your life. And that's also, it's like the same, it's like the weight thing, right? It like fluctuates like with life. And I mean, we've had some crazy seasons in our life where it's like, fitness still always been a priority. Like I've always tried to keep it in there, but there are times in life where it's just impossible to get in a workout 5 days a week.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as, and I always check with myself, like as long as that's what I would still choose to do on a day off, then I know I'm okay. Once that becomes not something that I would choose to do on a day off, then I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't good.
Right. One of my favorite kind of examples of that is when people will tell me, oh yeah, I didn't do my exercises because I was on vacation. I'm like, what? Because that totally doesn't compute in our family. Like that's why you go on vacation is like, I got to work out every single day of my vacation and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that, because that's what I choose to do because I've learned to love it. Even though like we talked about, I hated it at first. I didn't hate working out. I hated running. I liked working out, but my version of working out was so aggressive that I found that I rarely did it
every day.
Especially consistently every day, because you wake up in the morning and you go, do I really want to put myself through that? No, I don't. And so I stayed in okay shape, but not great. And part of that's because when you're 22 or whatever, you can kind of cheat and you're fine. But so it kind of goes back to why I started Body Smart in the first place and all those things. Like I graduated school. I had done this rotation with Julie where I saw the metabolic testing and she was talking about, like working out slow most of the time and you don't have to kill yourself. And I was like, this is garbage. Like, what is she talking about, right? That's not true. Yeah. Like you have to push it to get anything done. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I did my metabolic test and I was like, okay, I'm going to go walk every lunch break. She took a regular lunch break. So I'd go walk during the lunch break and then come back and eat. Like I just filled the fridge with like salads, or I'd eat like a half of a squash or whatever, like weird stuff, but mostly fruits and vegetables, just while I was there at work. But then, and I would walk that once a day. And then my other active lifestyle things, I dropped like 18 pounds.
It was
fast. 18 or 20 pounds in that 10-week clinical rotation. And so I was like, oh, dang. Now, to be fair, I was like 20 whatever years old, like 27 years old. So it was a little bit easier. And I had never gotten too out of shape, but I had gained quite a bit of weight during that period for me. And so, but that opened my mind to like, oh, this working out slow thing maybe is a good idea. And then I went and worked at the University of Utah and did all this great stuff working with stroke folks. And I was tasked at one point with building a stroke wellness program, or helping build the stroke wellness program. And as I got into that, I realized, well, we're kind of on the wrong end of wellness. We should be preventing the stroke in the first place rather than helping people that have had a stroke have a better lifestyle. That's important too. And I didn't mind helping with that. So I tried to, make inroads there and got on this interdisciplinary board for weight loss and all this stuff. And so I went to my manager and my manager's manager and said, like, hey, if I bought this equipment and did this metabolic testing thing that I learned how to do and helped open a weight loss clinic with some of these other clinicians, and it was kind of like, well, let me check, let me run that up the flagpole. And and never really gained any traction with it. So I was like, darn it, I'm going to do this. I want to help people.
Yeah. Insurance companies don't want to.
Yeah, insurance companies don't pay for it. Well, they'll do scans all day long because it makes them money, but they won't do anything that actually keeps them from losing money, which is a weird mentality to have. But so, yeah, there was no way of funding it. And anyway, so I was like, well, I'm going to do this on my own then. So I went and bought a metabolic cart with my own money, and I went back to the U and said, hey, I have this metabolic cart now. Can I do it on my days off and Saturdays? And they were like, yeah, no, we're good. So I talked to a friend of ours who's just an amazing guy. Said, hey, can I run this out of your tennis club? And he's like, sure, go ahead. And so I started doing some testing there just on my Thursday day off and Saturday mornings. And it gained enough traction that the wonderful people at Fit Stop were like, hey, come work with us. We've opened some gym or some PT clinics in really nice gyms here along the Wasatch Front. And so I started joining them, doing the metabolic testing and treating patients there in these really nice gyms, and was able to start working on training people in a different way, more of a lifestyle based weight loss strategy and fitness strategy. And that kind of grew into what we do now at Body Smart. But, and then Julie Knighton, who taught me how to do all this and really is in many ways such a great mentor and coach and everything for me. She called me up one Sunday when we were on a hike in between conference sessions. We took some pictures, and every year that pops up in my feed. And it's fun to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was now 5.5 years ago. But she called me up and said, hey, would you want to buy my practice? I don't know. And so, it was a lot of thinking and praying and pondering.
A lot different and a lot of different.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Over this 5 years, that was a month-to-month decision as to whether or not that was the right call. But no, we've loved it, and it's fun to watch it grow and watch kind of that lifestyle mentality help people and see people with real results and stuff. It's been really fun. That's kind of how it all started from a business standpoint. But it really was that foundation and kind of what we were figuring out in our own lives and our own lifestyle that's kind of driven that as well. And it's just fun that I've been able to find science to back it up. Yes. But yeah, being able to help people really has been a fun part of that journey too. Not just my own family, but to be able to see how it's impacted others' lives is awesome.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, and I think that's a big message that we always want to share. And like you said, that is kind of one of the messages that underlies why we do what we do, is so that not only can we live fit, healthy, active lifestyles and do the things that we want to do with our families, but so that people can do that too, right? So that they're not just killing themselves day after day, exercising or injuring themselves over and over again, but that they hopefully develop some of those skills, not just in terms of training and running, but in how to live truly overall healthy and active lifestyles, right? Because it's not just the physical component, it's the mental and emotional and being able to kind of take that big picture look of what you want your life to be like and find the resources and the training to build that lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, and there have been a lot of mental and emotional hurdles too that we've had to work through and create habits and patterns there too.
Well, yeah, and I think noticing when in life when things go awry, that like that's the outlet that I take to cope is exercising and moving and whatever that. I mean, we hear that all the time, right? Like that exercise is so good for stress and whatever, but there's been several points in my life where I've known that like
it's become your drug.
Well, it's just like if I don't go on a run today, like I'm not going to be a good mom.
Yeah.
Not because like I can't keep up with my kids, but like I will like lose my crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I'm not going to be so
keeping you centered, right?
Yeah, and I think stuff like that takes time to learn those things.
How often have I come home and said, Shannon, just go on a run.
Just go on a run.
just go. You need to just go.
Yeah, it's true.
I'll come home and be like, I got it.
When our babies were younger, it was like...
Did that all the time,
you come home and I'd go on a run. But knowing that's... Yeah, I think that's important. And it takes learning that over years and years of like, at this point in my life, I was mentally doing better because I was more in shape and more, my life was more fitness. And this is when I wasn't running and then I really wasn't doing good mentally. So I think it's learning that stuff, right?
Yeah. That all takes time. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. I think it's fun to get to take a deeper dive into that, right? We're always interviewing other people, but we haven't interviewed the runners right here, right?
I guess. I feel like I talk enough that everybody has heard it.
There you go. No, I think it's fun and to be able to help people understand why we do what we do. We love to keep runners on the road, right? We love to keep people healthy and living active lifestyles so that they can live the lives that they want, that they can establish and maintain the relationships and have the experiences that are most important for them, not now, but throughout a lifespan. So you guys said some awesome stuff. This will be a fun interview to listen to. If people want to find you or follow you, where can they find you? The ultimate question.
Right. Body Smart PT Utah is my Instagram, I think. Body Smart PT maybe is Instagram. I don't know. I don't handle that anymore. Go Laurie. But yeah, bodysmartutah.com. Check us out.
Shannon, how about?
You can't follow me.
Bougie like that.
If you want to hear about Shannon, listen to this podcast again and again and again. You can hear it again. No, that's awesome. Well,
DM me, I'll give you her.
Oh man, no. If you want to find Shannon, you look on the volleyball court or the tennis court or the trails or right.
Come find me there.
They're always active,
but not in a creepy way.
All right.
We'll go find her.
Well, thanks for joining us. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and if you ever have any questions, you can go to the website bodysmartutah.com, click on message us, and get your questions answered. So, again, thanks for joining us, and hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thanks for listening to Running Unbroken. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and reach out if you or someone you know has a story to share.